Thanks.
Now, we're going to open it up to some questions.
Okay.
I had questions over there that would have been from Dan Flynn, but if you were listening close enough, you already had his talking points. He's already answered those questions, folks. Everything that you've said up here, and that's why I wanted to see Dan Flynn here defend his side. We need to know the truth.
Could you repeat the questions that he was going to answer?
I sure will. Refresh your memory on the talking points. Okay, number one is impeachment by the House was considered, but in the end it was censured and inappropriate behavior. And of course we know why he didn't get impeached.
So one of the funniest things that happened. I'm sorry, this is a little short, and I don't want to yank it out of the ground. I'm going to come out there and do that.
Might even be shorter. I don't know.
No.
No, it's not. It's not.
Well, I'll just grab it.
Yeah. Why don't you get up there? Okay.
One of the funny parts about the impeachment process was, they had hired Rusty Hardin, plaintiff's attorney out of Houston, to concoct all these allegations and charges against me. And then they found out, Dan Flynn found out, Trey Martinez Fisher, Democrat from San Antonio, found out that when it went to the impeachment process, they were going to have to carry these charges themselves. They couldn't get their attorney to do it. Dan Flynn would have had to go down to the floor of the House and make the charges against me personally. Well, they knew that the charges were bull, and they lost a nerve, because I couldn't be on the floor, but there were other good men and women politicians in the House that knew the truth, and they were going to challenge him. And if the House had voted to impeach, then it would have gone to the Senate, and I would have had a legitimate trial. I could have called witnesses, and they didn't want that. They didn't want the truth coming out. They just wanted me to quit. They wanted me to stop, and that's not what I went to Austin to do.
Okay, that's the first question. Now, and by the way, what did the document actually say when they censured you? The inappropriate behavior, was that it? Did they make any definite points? I was told you were very arrogant and no such a thing. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I don't really remember what the document said.
Okay,
it was a censure where I was censored. I wasn't sure which it was. And it really didn't matter to me, because that was not their. Once they figured out that they would have had to do something and expose themselves, their plan was to give it to the DA, and in hopes that they could make something stick on a ham sandwich.
Question number 2. You were offered a chance to submit any and all information you had to the committee for their investigation and determination. You chose not to provide that information.
So as I said, I've turned over some 30,000 emails. Many people are afraid of emails. In this role as a regent, these emails belong to the people of Texas. I put in emails what I said, what I intend to do, my questions, everything is a roadmap of my behavior. I turned all those over. The other trick that the committee tried to do, which was really pretty nasty, so there were really 3 buckets of information that mattered. This was information that had come to me that was either A, FERPA, or student protected information by law, or B, it was information that the Attorney General had already ruled on was confidential and could not be disclosed, or C, it was attorney-client privilege. And I don't know if we have any lawyers in the room, but the attorney-client privilege, I did not own the privilege. The board owned the privilege. I couldn't disclose the attorney-client communications. So if I had taken anything directly and given it to them that violated any of those 3 buckets, or I had gone before them and answered their questions without a subpoena, that violation would have become my indictment in the grand jury. So there was no way for me to answer their questions. There was no way for me to give them information without a subpoena, which they would not give me because they did not want that to happen.
Au contraire, Mr. Hall said that you were offered a subpoena, but you refused because it was on your terms. So
That's absolutely factually untrue. Show me the subpoena. They had to vote on the subpoena. There was no, they voted on a subpoena, they went back into their transparent secret room in the back. They had another vote, they came back and they retracted the subpoena. I asked for the subpoena repeatedly.
Okay. The next one I should have wadded up and thrown in the trash because it says you were strongly rebuked by the Travis County DA, and that's anybody that keeps up with Texas politics knows what the Travis County DA is all about.
So Travis County DA, they literally, very unusually and probably illegally, put out a 4-page letter, open letter to the world, condemning my behavior, if you will. And in the process, presumably the things they had in, the things that were in there were things that they learned in secrecy as part of the grand jury process, which is illegal to disclose. They did it anyway. But they were the same, tired, retread allegations that came out of Dan Flynn's committee. And once again, I couldn't tell you what they were, but the net effect was it didn't matter to me. They didn't indict me, and I continue to do my work.
Okay. Well, to get an indictment from those folks is like having a badge of courage.
But before you move on, if there's anything that shows my lack of culpability in anything that anybody's accused me of, the fact that they didn't indict me is unbelievable. When you look at what's happened down in Houston recently with the group that shot the videos of Planned Parenthood, and you look at the allegations, against Governor Perry, you look at what they did to Tom DeLay. I mean, the fact that they didn't indict me means there must not have been anything at all, not a scintilla of wrongdoing found, or they would have indicted me. I expected it.
Okay. Your fellow regents at the University of Texas have told you to stop the harassment and grandstanding. True or not true?
I don't know if grandstanding is the word. I don't even know if harassment is the right word, but I have had 2 separate votes, if you will, that basically tell the public that I don't speak for the board, and that are votes of support for our new chancellor, Bill McRaven, and most of the current board, not the past board, most of the current board would like it just to be nice, and everybody be happy, and we go down there and have people call us regents and have our lunch and have everybody thank us for giving away y'all's money. And that's not the role. That's not the primary role of a regent. Not to be a cheerleader. It's to do the hard work and to make the tough decisions.
Okay. 2 more questions. Are you now involved in a lawsuit against the Chancellor, Admiral McRaven?
I am. I have. So when as I said, the Kroll Associates was the group that the former Chancellor. Francisco Figueroa, Dr. Figueroa, engaged to do the admissions inquiry, the independent admissions inquiry. The board voted, endorsed that. Before, the report didn't come till after Dr. Figueroa had retired back to his transplant practice. And I have the greatest admiration for former Chairman Gene Powell and former Chancellor Figueroa. They were just terrific leaders. But Dr. Figueroa had retired back to San Antonio, and the report came from Kroll in February, about 40 days after Bill McRaven had begun as Chancellor. It was a lengthy report. The Chancellor made a very quick review over a 2 or 3 day period, didn't talk to any of the regents, certainly didn't talk to me about the contents of the report, and decided on Monday or Sunday that nothing here, everybody go home. Don't believe your lying eyes. And I was concerned about it, and I asked to see the backup. I wanted to see the materials that Kroll had looked at to make their decision. In effect, the Chancellor was saying, I want y'all to adopt my view that everything is good, that everything is okay, but they didn't want to share with us the same information that they used to make that determination. It was at their disposal. There were some 60 interviews conducted by Kroll of a variety of people in the UT system, the Board of Regents, our employees, concerning this, the admissions. But it wasn't just admissions. If they had interviewed you, you could have told them about something else. You could have told them about a faculty member that had done something terrible to one of the students or that was ongoing. Or you could have told them, said, well, you need to go this way and look at this because there's some theft going on, or anything is in those interviews. And I thought it appropriate to understand the totality of the risk facing UT Austin and our reputation and our operations. And I wanted to see the material. We had a vote. We have a process in our Regents rules that allows for if the chancellor or the chairman don't want to give information to a regent, then we go through a process. We went through that process. We had a public board meeting, like all of our public board meetings, and we vote in public. And all I had to do was get one other regent to join my request, and then I got all the documents, confidential or otherwise. I got 2 other regents to join me, so I won the vote, right? Well, apparently not. They reinterpreted what we actually voted on and said that I lost the vote, and I'm mystified. And I spoke with everybody involved, and I said, how can you do that? That's not right. That's not appropriate. To the point to where they just ignored me. And so I went to the Attorney General and asked permission as a state official to hire an attorney. They granted me that. I got a gentleman who's an undergraduate from Texas A&M, but he's a graduate of UT Law School, so he's got all the pedigree. And so then I couldn't get the information, so I asked the Attorney General for permission to file a lawsuit against the Chancellor in his official capacity, in my official capacity, for this action. And the Attorney General granted it, and I have filed suit. We've had a couple of rounds so far. I lost the last round based on mootness or standing, I forgot which one it was, but not on the merits of the case. And so I filed a brief last week to the Third Court of Appeals, I guess, or Third District Court. I always get it confused. And the Chancellor will answer in the next 30 days, I believe. But it's a matter of law. And if their interpretation of the law is allowed to stand, what they are saying is the law is basically that they, an employee, can decide what the board sees and doesn't see. So how in the world can you have accountability if the board has to depend on the employee to dictate what you see? And that's where we are right now. So that is the lawsuit.